everybody, it's Amber from The Sensible Mama. If you've seen my channel for a little while, you might recognize this guy. This is my husband, Charlie.
Hi there.
So I asked him to sit down with me today and answer some questions about being a husband during home birth. One of the questions that I get most often from people is, what did your husband think about doing a home birth? Was he on board? I get a lot of women telling me that they want to do home birth, but their husband isn't really into it. So I thought maybe today would be a good opportunity to interview Charlie, get some of the insights into what it's like for the guy, and educate you a little bit on home birth. And maybe if you and your spouse are deliberating about it, maybe Charlie can help put some worries to bed. So obviously things must have been okay in our first home birth for you, because you are agreeing to do it again in any day now. But I'm sure that there were some doubts at first, I guess, when we first got started. So I guess first of all, like, did you know about home birth before you and I started talking about it?
Not really. I didn't think it was a common thing. When we saw the business of being born, I couldn't believe that it was that big of a deal. But yeah, so when you mentioned it, it was surprising to me. But I'm a quick study. I investigated it pretty fast and thought it was kind of cool idea.
Was it like scary to you at first?
Yeah, because well, where we were living, it wasn't that scary. I mean, we were 3 minutes away from a hospital. So, and after getting educated and watching the business of being born, meeting with the midwife and the doula, you realize that this is a walk in the park for them, right? This is like no big deal. This is the way we've been doing it since man's been walking the earth. So you kind of it's just we have this fear that's put into us because you think that this is the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to go to a hospital. But that's not really the way it started out, right? So after doing it once, it was unbelievable, right? I can't imagine having a baby any other way. Although I'm still scared. You still have apprehension, right?
Yeah. So what was it like for you as you started deliberating? Because I mean, a lot of my followers know that you do have children from a prior relationship, so you have seen hospital birth. You know what that path is like. So what was kind of going through your mind as you started thinking about what home birth was going to be like compared to hospital births that you had witnessed before?
Well, I had a very positive outlook because I was very much a witness to the cascading events. The Pitocin and all, then the epidural and all this other stuff. So I saw it, and then, you just sometimes wonder, did I harm the child in any way? Being part of those decisions and not, and by having a natural home birth, it just takes a lot of doubt off you with regard to, I know I'm doing the best thing for the baby, right? And they can't have a better way into society than not having any of these interventions or medications or anything else. So it does take a little bit of relief off. Like it's just like we've done our part. We've done the best we possibly could, and now on to the next one, right?
But just to give you some grace in that situation, like you did have one pregnancy that was like absolutely needed to be in the hospital. It was
Yes.
Safest for mom and for
Absolutely,
baby.
yeah. Not the best enjoyable experience. Highly, highly stressful, right? So I could say that the home birth was stressful, but it was almost festive stressful,
Yeah.
right? It's like preparing for a Thanksgiving meal. It's like, you got a bunch of people coming over. I got to get the turkey done. If baby's in the oven, we got to get her out.
Yeah.
So it was like that. It was a festive stress, but the other delivery was extremely stressful. Then you have moments of self-doubt. Is the home birth the right decision? Should we be in a hospital for this one? Because it is the second child. It's going to come much faster.
Yeah.
And we're a lot further from the hospital. It's not 3 minutes away. Our midwife has a haul to get here. So there's a lot of those concerns that I have going on. Which get me nervous. And, if I were to say, am I more comfortable in a hospital setting? I can't lie. I would say, yeah, I am more comfortable in a hospital setting, but I don't want to take away the experience of the home birth. I think it's, you just put your man, protector, provider feelings aside
Well, and one of the things that was really important to you and I both when we started talking about the birth of Roman was wanting you to have a really strong role and not just being, what are you laughing at?
Yeah, so I know how to boil water really well
No, that's not what it was about.
and get towels.
We wanted you to be, to be a presence during the birth, and because of complications that had happened with at least with your daughter, it was like you didn't get to have that role, and so it was really important to both of us that you get to have that. And for me, that was one of the biggest draws of home birth, was knowing like you were gonna catch the baby, like
Right.
you were gonna be there ready to catch him when he came out, and like just knowing that there was nobody there who was going to step on your toes or being the person pushing you aside, that was a big deal to me, for sure.
Yeah, no, there is no doubt the experience is night and day. Um, you know, even though you're not the guy delivering the baby, you feel like you are, right? You feel like I'm bringing my child into this world, and I'm an active part of bringing him here, right? And you're doing stuff. I mean, you're actively doing stuff, whether it's boiling water or getting towels or, but you're there, and catching the baby is as close to delivering a baby as you possibly can.
So talk a little bit about the Bradley Method course, because I mentioned this in my last video about how Bradley Method is like husband-led birthing. And although I was present for all of the classes, it really felt like the class was for you. It was all about teaching you how to guide me through the birth. So what was that like for you, taking the course? And
Yeah, so I think the course does more of building confidence in you as the man, because you do have an active role, and as soon as you remember it, you forget it after the baby. You come into the delivery and you're kind of prepared with certain things, and certain things make it into application, and then you're like praying for the doula to get there to take over. So the course definitely helps in preparing you and just boosting your confidence. It's being able to share your concerns with others is kind of important, and hearing their questions. If you're shy and you don't ask questions, you can hear their questions. So it's definitely a good forum to be in.
did you feel like when I was in labor, and they know, like we had a 70-hour labor, so when that got started and things were starting to move forward with my labor, did you feel prepared?
Well, yeah, I did, because the things that I was prepared for, as opposed to other methods, this is the signs of active delivery, active labor, and trying to, you're the guy making the phone calls, calling the midwife, calling the doula, saying, here's what she's experienced, here's how far her contractions are apart, and, being able to look for those signs, right? There are some very clear signs that you learn in the method that give you an indication that we're moving into active labor, right? So just being able to be aware of those signs is very, very helpful. The exercises, bouncing on the ball and all that other stuff, it may or may not come to practice, right? Because every, wife is different, every labor is different, and what works in the classroom may not work, during delivery.
When your wife is screaming and
Yeah.
inconsolable.
But the signs and being able to convey the information is what's important.
That's true. I remember, like, one of the things that sticks out in my mind was you constantly asking me questions and me getting annoyed with you. Because, you would be asking, like, well, are you feeling nauseous yet? Are you having this kind of feeling or that kind of feeling? And I just remember being like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Why do you have to know this right now? But then I'd hear you on the phone with the midwife later, and I would realize you were asking all those questions because you were trying to figure out, is it time to get the midwife here? Are we in active labor?
Yeah,
'Cause-
believe me, we're trying, from my perspective, I want to know those signs, because I don't want to deliver the baby by myself.
Yeah, you were really in tune with that, like trying to make sure that you gave the midwife enough time to get there. Well, I was screaming at you for a lot of it because here's what you did. So one of the things that helps most with pain is hip contractions, and it's where your husband puts his hands on either side of your hip and pushes in really, really hard. So that was one of your jobs, but your other job was to time my contractions. And one of the fumbling kind of things that happened at the beginning, and it's funny, like you laugh at it because like you're both in
Well,
this.
I geeked out. I downloaded a contraction app, had to find it on my phone,
Yeah.
start it.
So
It's like, wait, just hold off your contraction. I got to start the clock.
yeah, hang on, the app's not ready yet. But you know, you're both kind of learning for the first time in the moment how to handle these situations. And so what Charlie had done was like I was on all fours on the bed having contractions, and Charlie decided to put his phone that has the contraction timer over there.
No, that's not what happened. So I put my phone on the bed because I am servicing her on one side of the bed, and then she's not comfortable, so I run on the other side of the bed, or I run on this side of the bed, and you lose track of your phone.
Yeah, so now I'm like having terrible contractions and I need these hip compressions, and he's running all over the place looking for his phone, and I'm like, where are you? It's just such a mess. But we got it dialed in. Like it took us a little time, but we got it dialed
Yeah,
in.
eventually. Until my hip compressions weren't strong enough.
To be fair, you were doing that for 70 hours. Like I'm sure that your chest and your arms were getting sore.
So, you know, it's like my job was to like do these hip presses, and you know, you just don't know how hard to push. You don't want to break her, right? And you know, it's just you're just being careful and cautious and everything else. But when the doula came in, she's like, roar. And then you realize how wimpy you were in giving hip compressions.
I think about too the fact that we were in an apartment and we had neighbors on all sides, and so here I am moaning and screaming, and you're doing these hip compressions and I'm screaming harder, do it harder. I'm sure the neighbors were like,
Yeah, what's going on up there?
okay, so we went through all of that with the kind of pre-labor where you're helping me with the pain and everything. For us, things changed really quickly. Like I went into transition. We went from like 5 centimeters dilated to 8, like in 45 minutes or so. And then it was go time, and we all thought there was more time on the clock, and there wasn't. And you had to get the pool filled up.
That's right.
So talk
you know,
about that.
when the midwife comes and the doula comes, okay, so it's now as the guy, you're like, you can finally take a breath, right? It's like you're off the clock because they got it covered, and boy, it's like the cavalry coming in. You know, you as a guy, you need that, right? So it's like, okay, you got to fill the pool up with hot water, and it was like the most welcoming. I can do that really, really well. So I got pots boiling on the stove. I'm boiling big pots of water, running through the house, filling up this tub, and you know, that's trying very quickly to get the tub filled up, the pool filled up.
So there was like a hose?
A hose from the sink into the pool, and we ran out of hot water out of the hot water heater. Right?
So that's why you were boiling water.
That's why I was boiling water.
So one of the biggest, and we're going to get back to the middle part of what happened in between you filling up the pool and taking the pool apart. But one of the biggest questions that I've gotten from people is like, what was it like cleaning up after the birth? Like deflating the pool. Where do you take the water? Because I don't even know. I was busy with Roman. Where does the water that's in the pool, the blood and the afterbirth, and where does that go?
Yeah, so what you do is you hook up a hose and you drain it out into the tub, and for the most part, the water drains out. All of the afterbirth or whatever that is, it's not a lot of stuff, but it sinks to the bottom of I guess the
liner?
the liner, and then you know, when there's still some fluid left in there, you just roll it up and, you know, fold it up and put it in a garbage bag and you're done. But that's the other thing, you know, when the baby's coming, you're filling up the pool, you're boiling water, you're getting towels ready, cold compresses, you're just this guy that is being wingman for whatever's needed, and you feel very useful. And then while they're doing all the business of you know, cleaning up the baby and taking care of mom, because there's some afterbirth issues they have to take care of with mom, you're busy again, being very helpful, cleaning up, draining the pool, you know, doing things like that. So you're always busy, and it's a good busy, right? And that busy kind of reduces the stress, right? If you had nothing to do and you were just sitting there watching and waiting, you're stressed. But since you're always doing something, it's not really stressful. It's really enjoyable.
So talk about those moments when it was just about time for Roman to be born, and then leading up into his birth and everything that came after that. Like, I'm not talking about breaking down the pool, and I'm talking about those very, very special, intimate moments of what those were like for you in the home birth.
Yeah, amazing. So, Amber's sitting in the pool, and you could see, this is your girl, and she's uncomfortable, and she's in pain, and your heart's breaking because there's nothing you could do about it. She's got to fly this, solo, right? There's nothing you could do about it, and you're just there holding your hand, stroking her arm, and if she doesn't want her arm stroked, you're not stroking her arm. She wants the walls painted, orange, you're painting the walls orange. You're just doing whatever she asks you to do. And, just in this marvelous anticipation that, any second now, this baby's going to be born. And kind of surreal because, you're taking pictures and you're actually watching things that she can't even see. Right, you're seeing things that she is not even aware that is happening. You see the head, you see the hair floating in the water, and you realize, that's my son's head, and next thing you know, you see him go out and then come back in. You see things like that she doesn't get to see, and it's just, you get a glimpse into the birth that is very special to you as a dad, and then she gets the very special feeling that, she did this, so it was good.
But for you, as a dad, what was that like? When he was born, and here we are. I'm sitting in the pool holding him, and you are reaching around the pool with your arms around us.
It's hard to explain to a woman, and I don't want to generalize for all guys, but when guys are in this fight or flight mode, we have a really good mechanism, and I think it's a gift from God that we compartmentalize things, right? We can put aside things because we have a task. So it's just like you put that stuff aside at the moment, and then when the smoke clears, that's when you do your breakdown. And that's the way it's been for me. When I'm on, and then when nobody's looking, that's when I just fall to a bazillion pieces, right? And I think that I didn't let myself feel anything until I knew that you were safe and the baby was there in your arms and everything, and then that's when the reality hits you, and that's when you start feeling the things.
Well, and I remember too, like when everything finally settled down, the midwife had left, the doula had left, my parents left, and it was just you and me now. And for me, it was so weird because, I had always heard about how you're not allowed to get up and walk around and stuff after you have a baby because you've had the epidural. You can't. And for me, I was still like mobile. I was able to just like I'm going to go make a sandwich, and I could go make a sandwich. And to hand Roman to you, and I just remember at one point, I forget what, maybe I was going to the bathroom or something, but I handed Roman to you. And as I was walking out of the room, I turned around and looked at you because I had concerns that you weren't bonding with him. I had concerns that it wasn't real for you yet. And I turned around and I could see you just holding him, and like your lip was quivering just a little bit. And you looked up at me and you said, "He just takes my breath away."
Yeah.
And that was, for me, like, that was the moment when I was like, all right, yeah, everything's good. He needed the smoke to clear.
The first thought in my head was, I want my son to bond with you first, right? That was very important, right? Because I wanted to make sure that he was able to be nursing, and that there's hormones that create that bond and everything else. So I didn't want to interfere with that process. I had plenty of time. And as you know, we're like two peas in a pod right now. So, I just played the long game and wanted to make sure that you and Roman were, jiving.
Is there any advice that you have for husbands who are getting ready to give home birth, or maybe are getting pressure from their wives to do it and they're uncertain about it?
Yeah, I would say that, there's really nothing to worry about. But definitely go the route of a doula, this is the best investment that I ever made. I was originally thinking, I don't need a doula. I could do this. It was just going to be me and the midwife, and we're going to be able to do it. And then at the last minute, we decided to have the doula, and it was the best decision that we made because, holy smokes, not only is she support for the mom, she's support for you. And she's got your back, and she was there every step of the way.
What was kind of the most memorable thing for you, or maybe the thing that you're looking forward to the most with our daughter's birth?
Well, it's the one moment where I placed Roman on your shoulder, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a picture of him and his eyes connecting with yours for the first time. And that just like melted you. It's just like, blah. Your knees give out, and it was just, so it's just, you know, you go through that whole thing, and you know, if there's anything you remember vividly, you know, it was, for me, it was just that one moment.
So one of the questions that someone on the Chatorama had was, what about the dog? Yeah, everyone, we have a pit bull, and so what was happening with the dog while we were giving birth? Were you having to take care of her as well?
No, she was so good. We have a little kennel that she goes in. That's her safe place, and your parents were there, walking her as needed, and everything was fine.
And kind of the last question that we didn't touch on yet was like, kind of what did you think was your most important support role during the birth? Like, what did you really feel like, this is what I'm here for?
Well, it was definitely the communication to the midwife and to the doula, keeping them up to speed, being your rock, you know, and your cheerleader. You got this. You know, it's nothing to be afraid of. You know, you're doing well, and your role as a cheerleader, just to take away the fears, because it's got to be very scary for you. You know, especially the first child. Mm-hmm. You don't know what to expect. You know, and I'm the guy who's going to make the call of, hey, I think, you know, I think we need to go to the hospital or something like that. You know, it's too much, right? So constantly weighing that out, knowing that you're not making the decision alone. That I'm there, and I'm looking at the whole picture. You just do what you need to do. I got everything else covered. So you have a big role as the coach, I guess, right? It's a two-man job. You know, she's got to do her thing, and you got to make sure everything else is taken care of.
There was a moment where I was the most thankful for having the doula, and that was that moment when I was in the water. I was in transition. It was like almost time to give birth, and I remember looking at you and saying, I don't know if I can do this. Do we need to go to the hospital? And in that moment, you had been so strong and so firm through everything. You know, you can do this, you've got this. But in that moment, when I looked at you, I saw doubt across your face as well. And that was when you looked at our doula and you said, what do you think? And it was then that the doula, she had been so quiet. She wanted you to have the opportunity to make that call first. But I remember her saying, she kind of smiled and was like, this is all part of it. Just having that extra second opinion.
Yeah, so the doula, which we thought was for the mom, actually turned out to be more for the dad at the end of the day. She was just absolutely amazing. Well, there's one thing for the guys, it's the bragging rights, right? It's just, I can't tell you how many times when you talk about the birth of your child, they think, yeah, you had a child, that's great. No, I had a home birth. Oh my gosh, it opens up just dialogue. You're just like you're just on cloud nine. You know, even this last trip that I was on, saying I got to get home. My wife's pregnant. We're about to have our baby, and then you have the opportunity to say it's a home birth. What? And you get to go into that, so you get some bragging rights, and you know, it's just very exciting. You know, it's just the experience that just keeps on giving.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and being willing to be on camera with me for my channel. You guys, if y'all have other questions for Charlie, leave them in the comments of this video, and either I will ask him or I will just get him to sit down in front of the computer and answer some questions. Like I said, we're going to be doing this all over again any day now. You ready?
Yeah, and I think I'll be logging into the Chatorama to give updates once in a while.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.